In a world filled with screens and distractions, we invite you to reconnect with the natural world around you. Welcome to Nature Bound, a podcast dedicated to unpacking the intrinsic bond between humans and nature. We'll uncover the benefits of spending time outdoors, including how a nature-centric lifestyle can improve your mental health, elevate your leadership skills, and unleash your creativity. And now here's your host, outdoor enthusiast, and renowned author of The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this issue of Nature Bound. I'm Emanuel Rose. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Tim Neville. Tim is the lead storyteller for Visit Bend and a contributing editor at Outside Magazine, where he has spent 20 years globetrotting and honing his craft. His adventure spirit has taken him from hiking every continent to being among the first Westerners to ski in North Korea. Tim's commitment to storytelling shines through his work, capturing the essence of Bend and its vibrant outdoor community. When he's not crafting narratives, you might find Tim exploring the woods or standing atop mountain peaks, or maybe even waist deep in a river. Today, we'll delve into his experiences and insights on the intersection of adventure, storytelling, place, and maybe even family. Tim, thanks so much for spending some time with me today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
It's awesome. You obviously knew how to pick a great spot to live, Bend, Oregon. What was on that short list of places for you and your family to live?
You know, I got here because of the girl, so there was no short list.
It was a very short list.
Yeah, it was a very, very short list. Yeah. Now, I grew up on the East Coast in the Chesapeake countries of flat, swampy, hot, muggy, surfing, and that's sort of where my love for nature began, like on some of the Berry Islands there with wild ponies. And then I actually moved to Switzerland right after high school to be an exchange student. That's where I fell in love with mountains and got my first pair of hiking boots.
Nice.
And then came back to the States looking for a place that looked like Switzerland and didn't really find it, but ended up in Montana, which is where I met the girl.
All right. And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. So then, she was here, so I came up. Yeah.
Well, you have certainly had a remarkable career as a writer. What initially drew you into saying, "Hey, I'm going to try to"? Oh,
I lost you there.
Yeah, that's exciting. Let's see. So I was asking, what have initially got you excited about making a run at being a professional writer?
You know, that's a long story, but the very short version is I really just fell into it. I was a math science guy all through high school. Hated reading, hated writing. You could not have like paid me at that point to do that. But then that year I spent abroad, traveling to, living in Switzerland. My world began to expand drastically compared to what I'd been grown up. Yeah. And so, I was journaling a lot and started taking some writing classes in college and realized that I kind of had some things to say and I'd seen some things and then just began the learning process there. And, so one day I woke up and I was like, maybe you kind of like this writing thing. Maybe you should try to give it a go. And so I went up. I was at Montana State University at that point. And so I went up to the newspaper and I was like, I'd like to be a writer. And they said, great, you can be a designer. And so they
nice.
Put me on like how to figure out how to, lay out a newspaper back in those days. But I got to read all the stories and trying to figure out how they worked. And so next thing you know, they started giving me assignments, and then that translated into a job at the local newspaper, like an actual reporter where I learned to report and ask questions and write on deadline, that sort of thing. And then that led to an internship at Outside Magazine. There's steps in between, but where I was traveling in between and hiking and just being outside. And then once I was at Outside, that's where things really took off. I started there in January 2000, sort of the height of everything, and really was, just would go to meetings and be in rooms with some of the best editors in the country, working with writers, some of the best writers in the country. And just to be a part of that and to see how it all worked, and to learn how it all worked, really, really helped me. And so then I basically, it came to a point where I would kind of come in and help them out with certain issues and stories they were working on, and then I'd have a couple months off during which time I'd freelance. And so it eventually got to the point by August 2002 that one of those had to give, either the freelancing or the desk job. And I was like, I wanted to be a writer by that point for a while, and so I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Still
Yeah.
had the wanderlust, I guess, huh?
Yeah, very much, very much. I was very much on the travel side of things and wanting to be out there seeing the world and outdoor adventure, and just seems so crazy to me that there was a way to kind of make a living out of that. And granted, it was a very small living, but at that point, it didn't
Right.
matter. I'd get one $500 assignment for like Backpacker magazine and be like, woohoo, I can take the month off.
Yeah, yeah. There's a leisure class at both ends of the income spectrum, right?
I was definitely in one of those. I'll let you
Yeah.
guess which.
No, I love it. I mean it speaks about your love of what you're doing and being outside, and talk a little bit about what it's like, and if you still will just go outside to go outside, or is it always a story for you?
Well, things have shifted for me over, not even really in the past year. So it was beginning to feel a lot like work, which is really funny to say, but it'd be like, you've got an assignment to go ski in Italy. And I'd just be like, oh God, do I really want to like go ski in Italy? Which sounds so privileged. And of course it was.
Yeah,
But at the same time, after 25 years of doing that, I began to, in the media industry, it changed so much and it was becoming such a grind, that was just starting to feel a lot like work. And so a position opened up here in Bend, where our local destination marketing organization, so the people who are in charge of like promoting Bend, but
yeah,
in a very sustainable way. If they were just like, sell Bend, come to Bend, kind of pimping Bend out, I would have had no interest whatsoever in doing that, because through my travels, I'd seen so many communities just completely overrun by tourism and just really losing their soul.
yeah,
And here in Bend, we've been growing so quickly that it felt like that we were on the verge of that as well. But Visit Bend was very much into like harnessing the power of tourism, of coming to places, and Bend being a very outdoorsy community, so much hiking and mountain biking and skiing and, rivers, all those things. They were very much into how can we sort of preserve what makes this place special, and yet also harness that so that the people who live here can feel the benefits of that popularity.
yeah.
And they needed a storyteller. And so I raised my hand and here I am.
That's awesome. You've got family in Bend.
Mhm.
What sort of outdoor activities are you doing with your family?
Yeah. So here in Bend, it's pretty. We're 106,000 people now. When I first moved here, it was 50,000, something like that. So we've grown a lot over the
Yeah.
past 25 years. Um, but the outdoors are just such a key part of that. We always joke that when you move here, it's like, okay, well now I've got to buy a bike, and now I've got to buy a canoe, and now I've got to buy skis, and now I've got to, all the things, right?
Yeah.
And so my family were really big skiers. We do a lot of skiing. My daughter, she's a junior in high school, and I think she skied 67 days last year. So just like really racking it up. We do a lot of backpacking, a lot of hiking. I have during the pandemic, I bought a river raft. And so we do multi-day river trips, which is just the most awesome, fantastic way to travel through the landscape ever. It's like riding in your backpack, except your backpack is
Yes.
full of fresh meats and comfortable cots. And yeah. So so we do a lot of that now. And now, honestly, I'll just a lot of times I'll just kind of go walk along the river and just sit by the river. And I like small things. I like finding little things like little mushrooms, and I'll smell trees, and I sound like such a hippie, but I love that like connection. I'm not out with a goal anymore. It's more just kind of being out there and recharging and just being grateful to feel a part of this place, and to see the things you get to see, and share a sense of wonder, I guess.
And I guess you've got a chance too to really dig in and be local, right? Where you're not always on an airplane going on to the
Yes.
next kind of assignment, right? So
Yes.
what's that like for you?
That has been absolutely wonderful. Really, really wonderful. Sure, I still miss. I have friends and colleagues who, I'll get messages from. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you should check out, Tajikistan. This place is fantastic." And all
Right.
these really exotic, fun, interesting things. But all through my career, I was as a freelance writer anyway, and I still freelance. But at the height of that, I was very much into not the big, splashy, popular areas, and more about trying to find. I don't want to say overlooked places, because these places are alive, people are living in them, all that, but maybe less known to outsiders, and always finding really interesting, fun, curious people in those places, and who are, no matter where you go, there's always going to be somebody who's very passionate about where they are and think that's the best place ever, right? And so taking that, and now my world is very local, right? So I spend so much time now diving into this community and finding trails that I've never hiked, and going, skiing runs I've never skied, and finding new mountains to climb, all that sort of stuff. And then on the flip side of that, coming back and being like, oh, here's a great restaurant I've never been to. Here's a dish I've never tried. Here's a beer I've never tried, that sort of stuff. And so applying that same sort of reporting curiosity that I would apply to 90 some countries or whatever, to a town of 106,000 that I've lived in for more than 20 years, has been deeply, deeply, deeply rewarding. People are like, "Oh no, you're not. That's going to go crazy for how you're going to like get stir." And I'm not stir crazy at all. In fact, every day I'm learning something new. I feel like I can make a change here. I can be less of as a writer. A lot of times you feel. I always joke, there were sort of thieves in a way that were parachuting into someone's life, or and kind of taking from them and repackaging it and trying to put it out there in the world so that others can relate to it. And here I can sort of do the same thing, but it's more of an activist role. It's like, how can I support you? How can I like make sure that travel and the outdoors are here for my kids and so on, and how can we keep that sense of belonging intact?
Yeah, love it. How do you see like adventure tourism connected to like where you've kind of ended up sniffing trees and touching mushrooms, right? Like,
Mhm.
is there a connection, do you think, there from
Oh, for
getting
sure.
getting somebody from an office building to an adventure into being able to sit by the Deschutes River on a rock?
Oh, for sure, 100%. So, it's a journey, right? And whatever your entry point is into that journey, um, the trajectory can be sort of whatever you make it, I think. But that said, it's really all in how you approach it, I feel like. And the same goes with travel. I see so many people when they when they go to a destination, they kind of, it's totally understandable. So I'm not like throwing shade on anybody here, but when they go to a destination, they've been working hard, they're drained, they're depleted. They just want to kick back somewhere and just be mindless and not think about anything, right? And for me, being outside and travel has been kind of the opposite of that. Like I've always found that, um, what am I trying to say here? That has been the way to recharge, not by doing nothing, but by actually doing more, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and so not by taking from a destination, but actually like leaning into a destination and trying to figure out kind of what it's all about. And so to your point, what's that trajectory there is, I think it starts out with a sense of like, I want to do something new and exciting and fun. I've never done this. I've always wanted to do that. And you do it. But then I think it's really important when you're there to be like, what is it that you're really after here? What is it that you're really trying to get? Right. And that taps into these big universal things I think that we all share as humans, right? We all want to be loved. We all want to feel a sort of sense of connection. We all want to feel fulfilled, all of these big things. And so I think that kind of becomes magnified when you're out among the world, right? So eventually what happens is that the journey, the place you're going and what you're doing becomes less and less important. And what becomes more and more important is sort of how you come back changed from that experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's not like I've cracked some mysterious code here. It's just, I think if you approach the world and everything you do kind of with this sense of wonder and curiosity and be like, like how could I do this, like, to make myself 1% better in a way that kind of helps everything. And I say 1% because it's not like you need some giant transformation, right? It's small steps. It's small little things. I didn't set out smelling trees, It was just like, somebody said, hey, you should smell that tree. It smells like vanilla. And I was like, oh, well, what else can I smell?
I love it. What about for people that do only have like short periods of time and frequently to get out and do something like that, like an adventure, whether that's being on the Deschutes River in a raft or on a couple runs up on the mountain. What do you kind of guide people to do to get the most out of those experiences?
I'm definitely in that boat now. Now I have vacation. I have like my time is now allotted. And so it's become much more difficult in a lot of ways to be able to do these big trips. But that's what I'm saying is that they don't have to be big trips. But I was so throughout my career, like I had the opportunity and privilege of talking with of other really accomplished and very interesting travelers, and Rick Steves. I've been on his show a couple of times, and I was talking with him, and he had a really interesting way of kind of answering that question, and it's so true. It's just, and it seems like such a not like a no-brainer, but a key thing you can do is like, what is it that you love? What is it that you love, right? Do you love playing chess? Do you love cooking? Do you love, nerding out with like, circuitry, or, I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be anything at all. Like, what is it that you love? And then finding those communities elsewhere in a completely different culture, because then you have this like shared bridge that like just opens up all sorts of things, And so for me, a lot of time that has been skiing. Right? Like I didn't set out, I wasn't like, oh, I want to go ski in North Korea, but having that commonality with the North Koreans, that is unbelievably enlightening and valuable, and just goes back to all the other things we were saying, and tapping into those big themes of feeling connected and, on whatever level. And so if you don't have a lot of time, do you really need to go like on and nothing against cruises, but do you need to go on a week-long cruise where you're sitting around drinking drinks and whatever? Great. If that's what you want, that's great, But why not instead, if you love, I don't know, cooking, or that's an easy one, or woodworking or whatever, why not go to like Brienne, Switzerland, where they're all really into woodworking, and sort of like kind of tie into that community. If nothing else, go around and pop around the shops. I guarantee that you will feel a much more rewarding. You have a much more rewarding experience, in my opinion, than just sort of like taking and trying to sort of patch up something that's missing in yourself. And instead, why not develop something that's already there?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I just got back from Bonn, Germany on a business trip, and I was able to get my partner to borrow a guitar for me so I could play guitar every day. and I went to the cigar shop and hung out over there and smoked Cuban cigars, and I kind of set up a little like Emanuel Rose preschool for myself, So I had these little touch points and got to meet people that doing exactly what you're talking about. So I appreciate that deeply.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great way to travel. It's a great way to approach life. It's a great way to approach hiking. I
Yeah.
like on so many hikes now, I'm, either trying to, well, anyway, yeah, just trying to find little fun things to learn or connect to, or just be wowed by.
Yeah,
I'm the
I
worst
love
hiker ever. Like, you probably do not want to come with me. It's
it.
going to take us 10 hours to go a mile because I'm going to be like, whoa, what's that?
All right. No, that's it. I had a teacher who said, "You don't walk to the end of the trail; you walk towards the end of the trail."
There
And
you
that
go.
distinction changes your experience dramatically.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Definitely. And that's something that's been so great here in Bend is, we have 600 miles of trails all just within right around here. So I mean it's limitless, right? And in each season it's different, and there's different ecosystems that you go through and different plants. And I mentioned mushrooms earlier. It's like learning about the mushrooms, and I feel like it's just a vehicle to interface with what you love and the world at large, I guess. It's yeah, it doesn't have to be something big and sweaty, you know.
Right. I love it. Well, I appreciate your time, and I just got one more question for you. A man who's been all over the world doing all kinds of great stuff. What is left on your bucket list to do, either on your own or with your family, in an international sense?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I actually have a personal not loathing, but a personal kind of aversion to sort of bucket list, as if there are these things that you have to kind of like tick off or something, before it's too late, and which is great. There's definitely we all sort of have goals, and I'm definitely a big proponent of having goals. But my quote unquote bucket list is really pretty not sexy at all. Like I love seeing fun things about with geology or the topography. Like I love seeing where rivers come together. So just the other week I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see where Tumalo Creek enters into the Deschutes, right? And so then
Yeah.
I go there, or I'll look at a map and I'll find some random little hidden trail and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go check that out, And so I mean there's still things that I would absolutely love to do. I like kind of to give you an answer. I would love to go to Romania, to the Carpathians. I've never been hiking in those mountains ever. I would love to go to their places of Western China, that I'd like the Xinjiang area. Um, I'd love to go see that. And I wasn't really joking about Tajikistan. Like I would 100% love to go ski there.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. At the same time, I love the idea of like going to just random small places that nobody really would ever think of doing. Like I wrote a story once about Podgorica, which is the capital of Montenegro, and most people are sort of down on that. And it's just, I just had loved it. I had a wonderful time. I met this random dude who like had sort of seceded from Montenegro, his like little reggae burrito shop type place. He joked it was its own republic. And so I just hung out with that guy. I want to keep
Yeah.
finding things like that. I
Yeah.
love that kind of stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with you on that. I think the being interested wherever you are is really the secret that is masked up for a lot of people, and so I appreciate that ethic that you have, and
Hmm.
I think that's a cool way to walk through the world.
Yeah, it really is. And really, because then you realize that I used to tell kind of like a little metaphor that like, we're all sort of born, I guess, with like a little plot of earth, like a farm, let's say, right? And we get jealous because that person there has a bigger farm, and somebody else might have like crappier soil, and so you feel like, well, at least I'm not that, or whatever. But to me, that's the secret. Not it's not even a secret, but the thing has been to just make the most of like your own like little farm of what you've got. It's like try different things, play with it, be appreciative of it. And I think that's, if you kind of move through life that way, you end up being a lot less stressed.
For sure. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time. I really am appreciative of that.
Thank you.
If people wanted to catch up with you, they could probably find you at Visit Band. Is there some other way to catch up with you?
Yeah, so I have a website, just Tim Neville at Tim Neville, or I'm sorry, timneville.net. You can just find me if you just Google Tim Neville Outside Magazine, you'll find all sorts of stuff. But yeah, but I'm here in Bend, Oregon, and I'm always happy to talk with people and see what they're up to.
All right. Well, I hope you get outside this weekend with your family and smell some trees. I love it.
I'll see what I can do.
All right. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Emanuel.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Well, what a great reminder that there's little adventures to be found in wherever you live and in every day, and that's as important as taking giant trips halfway around the world. Hope you found some value from my conversation with Tim Neville. I did. It was a real treat, and I hope that you take some time to get outside and feel the dirt under your feet, and that you get your family outside with you. And if you don't have family or friends close, that you join a hiking group or a birding group, or help take some kids outside and get them away from the screens. It's Emanuel Rose, Nature Bound.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Nature Bound. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's episode, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to purchase your copy of the 7 Principles of the Magic Rock at emanuelrose.com or on Amazon. We thank you again for joining us today, and remember to get nature bound.